Okay, now I'll be the first to admit that I don't fully understand the nuances of Americans. But one thing I absolutely love that I think the Yanks have got right is the whole BDR movement. And if you don't know what BDR is, it stands for Backcountry Discovery Route. And it's an organization that's been put together over the last 10 years. And what they've done is they've mapped adventures from state to state, currently for over 10 states. And think of them as almost like adventures in a can. They are amazing. So I was pretty keen to do a backcountry discovery route. And so I reached out to my instructor, Neil, and asked him for some advice.
About to leave, already packing, come with me, I'm not really asking, we'll get away to a place where we don't know.
I flew to Spokane, Washington, where I was met by our support driver, Carlos.
Nice to meet you.
From there, it was straight into the trailer for our safety briefing. There I met the other riders. There was Ed from South Carolina, Brad from Scottsdale, Arizona, and Anders out of New York City. And of course, our instructor, Neil. Neil is ex-British Special Forces, and he is the perfect blend of military efficiency and OCD. So after our safety briefing, we got our kit, we jumped on the bikes, and we headed into Idaho to Bonner's Ferry, which was our hotel for the night, and that would be the starting point for our Idaho BDR. Neil would begin each day with a structured briefing, so we knew what to expect.
Okay, day one of the Idaho BDR, we're here now in Bonner's Ferry, and we'll be finishing the day in Clark Fork. The route is going to initially head north to the Canadian border, the border crossing point at Port Hill. That'll be pavement, and there we will officially join the BDR and head south all the way into Clark Fork. Highlights from today are Roman Nose Lakes, so we'll be taking this route out and coming back in to the south, and then Lunch Mountain Lookout, also known as Lunch Peak Lookout, and that is up through the forests here and finishing down in Clark Fork. Point for today is that there are reports of forest fires, so this might actually be closed, as might this road here, so we'll go take a look and see what we can do.
We were all riding current model 1250 GS's, and before you flame me and talk about these big, heavy, overweight bikes, these bikes are absolutely perfect for this adventure. It's not super technical, you don't need the lighter bikes, and these bikes just did it so well. They were so comfortable to ride. When we did have to hit pavement at speed, again, really comfortable to ride. So I was pretty happy to be on the GS for this ride. We stopped briefly at the Canadian border, which was the beginning of the BDR, and then set off and headed south and pretty quickly picked up dirt. Pretty much from the onset, the scenery was gorgeous. There was hardly any cars, and we just headed for the mountains in the distance. As we started climbing, the views just got better and better, and we all just settled in and really enjoyed the ride. As we approached Roman Nose Lake, we ran into a couple of other BDR riders who were doing it from south to north. And unfortunately, one of them had broken down. So they were so close to the end that they had to get their bike recovered. We pushed on the last part to Roman Nose Lake, and then we were greeted with just this beautiful spectacle of the lake itself. It really was idyllic. As we left Roman Nose Lake, where we had a wonderful lunch, we had some lovely forest riding heading south towards Clark Fork. But unfortunately, as we tried to get to Lunch Mountain, we found that the roads were actually closed due to wildfire. So we had to just turn around and head to Clark Fork for the night. All in all, a fantastic start for leg one.
Okay, day two, starting in Clark Fork, and we'll finish this evening in Avery. Highlights today are running through the mountains here up to Spyglass Peak and Grassy Mountain, and just beautiful Idaho forests, passing through the town of Wallace before then ending up in Avery. 140 miles.
As we prepared to head off for day two, there's no way we could have anticipated some of the obstacles we were going to face today. The day started off beautifully with some lovely riding up through the forest. And as we gained altitude and approached the ridgeline, I decided to pull the drone out and get some more aerial shots. I have to say, for me, the Skydio is a game changer, and I love shooting with it. We stopped for lunch on Grassy Mountain, and the views were just incredible. The afternoon's ride took us back down through the forests, and that's when we had our first drama of the day. Brad noticed a malfunction in his gear lever, and on closer inspection we found that the adjustment shaft had totally snapped. It must have taken a very weird hit.
But this stuff just takes time to mold like a putty. So I'll cut a bit, and if you can just mold it, and you're looking for it to become one colour, and it'll get warm in your hands, and we'll know it's good to go then. If you want to bomb that, just play with that.
So we used some JB Weld to make a trail side repair along with some wire and gaffer tape. and it looked pretty good. The repair seemed to work, and Brad had no problems riding the bike back out to the town of Wallace, where our support vehicle was waiting. At Wallace, we tried a stress test to see if we could actually break the repair, but it held strong. Then when departing Wallace, that's when we hit our second snag of the day. If you look at the map, you'll see that the BDR route goes through this tiny town of Wallace, and there's one street which takes you back out onto the trail. Unfortunately, as we tried to pick the trail up, our route was blocked by police cruisers. After a bit of discussion with the locals, we actually found that there was an active shooting incident that had just taken place, and a gunman had opened up on a car with an AR-15 and was taken out by the police.
If there's not enough going on with fires and everything else, there's just been an active shooter incident here. They've closed King Street. They're not going to open it up for another 4 or 5 hours while they deal with the crime scene. So we're going to go around.
So with the way blocked, we had to do a 2-hour diversion and backtrack to get around this obstacle. Once we skirted the obstacle, we had a nice ride into Avery, and we went to our quirky little accommodation for the evening, which is an old schoolhouse that's been converted. After dinner, we got the latest wildfire updates, and we made several contingency plans in case our route was blocked.
So day 3 of the Idaho BDR, we're going to set off south from Avery, and we'll be finishing today at Loxer Lodge, just here off Highway 12. A couple of issues that we're dealing with today. We know of a wildfire in this area, so there's a workaround. The workaround being all the way west to St. Marie's, following the road down to Elk River, and then crossing over the Dwarshark Reservoir on the Dent Bridge, before then retracing our steps to Pierce. And then from Pierce, we're going to attempt to cross the Lolo Motorway, and that really is our second concern for the day, is there's potentially a wildfire that could close the motorway. We're going to go and give it a go, and either way, whether it's the 500 Lolo Motorway or Highway 12, we'll finish today at Loxer Lodge. So mileage for today will be 250 miles.
As we headed out on day 3, I really had my fingers crossed that we were going to be able to do the Lolo Motorway. I'd read a bit about it, and I knew this was one of the highlights of the Idaho BDR. When we got to Pierce, we could see the fires, and we could see the planes and helicopters fighting the fires. Luckily, when we got to the Lolo Motorway, it was open. So we headed off for what was to be a beautiful ride. Again, it was just beautiful forests, it was rolling hills, it was incredible views, and the track was just fast and flowy and really fun to ride. For me, Lolo was a highlight. I just got in the zone. It was day 3. I was very comfortable on the bike. The temperature was perfect. The trail was fast. It was flowing. I was riding well, and the bike just felt like an extension of my body. And I was getting up the bike and just really enjoying it. Anyway, if you want to see how to get out of the zone pretty quickly, let me show you. And I'm going to show you with an adventure bike quiz. So here's the scenario. You're riding down a hill, moderate speed, in control, and all of a sudden you see a rut going across the trail in front of you. Do you A, gas it and try and lift the front wheel, even though that's likely to increase your speed hitting the rut? Or B, slam on the brakes, even though you know you won't be able to stop, which is going to load up the front wheel? Or C, aim for that rock lying in the middle of the rut and try and use it like a bridge to minimize the deflection? Or D, do nothing, close your eyes and just hope for the best and keep your line? Okay, so I don't know the right answer, but I will show you the wrong answer. I chose C, aim for that rock lying in the rut and try and use it like a bit of a bridge. So let me show you what happened to me. So I wasn't really going that fast. When I saw the rut, I just thought I'd use that rock as a bridge. And when I hit it, there was a huge bang. I think what happened was, when my front wheel went over it, it actually spun the rock over, and that exposed quite a sharp edge which really hit my back tire and back wheel. I could feel the bike pretty much immediately start to handle like crap, so I figured I'd probably got a rear flat tire. When I stopped and had a look at it, I saw that it was a bigger problem than that. Yes, my tire was flat, but I'd also damaged the rim, and I'd also damaged the sidewall of the tire. When Neil arrived, he was pretty cool, calm and collected, and he took this as an opportunity to teach me how to do a rear wheel change. We put the tube into the rear tyre and inflated it, but when we saw the tyre under pressure, Neil felt that the tear was pretty bad, and so we decided to take the tyre off again and put some packing underneath the tyre to try and protect the tube. After we got the tyre back on, Neil decided he was going to ride my bike, and I jumped on his bike, and I followed behind him and kept my eye on that back tyre in case it started shredding or falling apart.
Looks good.
Doesn't seem to be getting any worse, does it?
No, look, it's been looking okay.
Yeah, okay, you keep going, you're coming to a major intersection. I want you to get them all ready to go.
Okay.
If obviously you don't see me in an hour, you'll come back to me, right?
Yeah, no, maybe.
This saddle here, there's an information board, right?
And it was bad enough being on Neil's bike, but then he said these words to me.
Okay.
Go ahead carefully with this. There's no pressure, but this bike hasn't been dropped yet, okay?
And talk about putting pressure on you. All I could think about was don't drop Neil's bike, don't drop Neil's bike all the way back. We met up with the others and cut out of Lolo Motorway onto Highway 12 and headed for Loxer Lodge.